post-election trading patterns in the market after the 2019 general elections. Of course, we're seeing that the confidence in the market is beginning to be affected by the trading pattern we're seeing. So let's get talking about this. What exactly is the sentiment driving the market now? That's exactly what we'll be looking at. I've been joined right now by Mr. Osita Odili, who is the MD, El-Elyon Alliance Securities Limited. Thank you for your time on the show. I appreciate
Thank you very much
for the show. Let's quickly look at the trading pattern. Before now, we've seen a bit of confidence in the equities market, in the capital market before the election. But we're beginning to see a bit of volatility and, of course, the market going down. Are you surprised? And what would you attribute this negative pattern to?
Let me be honest with you. I'm not majorly surprised about it. Prior to the elections, projections had been made, and a lot more people, were thinking that basically there would be a change, and in the process, the confidence was coming up. But thereafter the elections, and judging from what has happened, considering the fact that the other contestant, has refused to concede. So basically these things are, bring apprehension. So generally I would say that what it means in the market, it's been very negative for us, is that generally the number of people who play in the market and do not seem to agree with what has happened or transpired in the election. So we've been having a downward trend, The confidence we thought that was coming back, is gradually winning out. Maybe the expectations of the larger community of those who operate in the market has not been met. And by and large, is negatively affecting the market at the moment, anyway.
You said that some of the people who operate in this market perhaps may not be happy with the outcome of the election, but if you look at the margin, the gap between, of course, the winning candidate and, of course, the losing candidate is about 3 million. Of course, 15 million for the winner, and then about 11 million votes for this. How do we, pick out these operators or the elite that plays in this market?
Yeah, you see, the figures can be there. And when we're talking about 15 million, what percentage of the 15 million that actually operate in the market? And then you look at it the other way, what percentage of the market, of the 11 million, also operate in the market?
That's right.
I mean, the way we understand it is that the other 15 million, operated on a grassroots level. And then the elites, who understand and appreciate how the economy runs, are the ones that are on the 11 million. And obviously, in Nigeria today, they are more in number than those who play in the market, than the people who are in the bracket of the 15 million. So the 15 million is not just the figure, but what percentage of that 15 million play in the market. And I can tell you, from my own little judgments, is that those who play in the market are in the bracket of the 11 million. And so
really? So, because I'm wondering, does this suggest then that we have, like you just said now, we have those who actually voted for the opposition candidate, bought into his manifestos. And so what we're saying now, what you are saying apparently, is that we have a sizable numbers of the market operators in and those who voted.
Yes, and again, the way you also look at it is that, you see, the last 4 years, the present government has been operating their own economic policies. The opposition came in with their own economic policies. And sometimes when you weigh both sides, it would have also been a determinant upon which the direction of those who operate in the market go. I mean, if we have operated in the market and in the last, especially in the last 2 years, the market has been down, or a year and a half. And then we were looking for a new, I'm sure the electorates were looking for a new lease of life in terms of economic activities. And when it did not come, obviously, what it means is that those who are on the opposing side, had operated more in the market. That's my understanding. Because if we, talking about 15 million, that's enough also to let people know that, okay, fine, this is quite a number. But what we are saying is that what is the percentage in that bracket that actually even operate in the economy? Then when you now break it down into our market, it's not if you let's go to like say a place like North and you talk about 2-3 million. You may not have about 100,000 or 50,000 or 200,000 that operate in the market. So the others are just on party affiliation, not on the economic balances or on the things that are on the table. So for me, the understanding I have is that if I can call it the elites or those who are enlightened, that actually operate on our market is on the.
Wow. But let's quickly look at it then. Would you suggest then that the market operators, as it is now, because, okay, before I even go to what you suggest, how then do you think we can get out of this negative sentiment in the market?
You see, the first major thing is that there must be some shifts in the economic policies. If for the past 4 years, it hadn't really worked as much as we expected, we expect a major shift or something to trigger a major shift in the economic activities of this nation. That is absolutely important. In fact, that is the primary thing. If it doesn't change, we don't need to politicize everything. We're talking about running an economy, and we're talking of Nigeria, with our market, with our population, with our know-how. There must be a shift in economic activities. Somewhat a little different from what you have always had in the past. Because if we also have the same thing going, I don't know how it will affect this. Because we need to check about the economic growth, the indices, statistics and all those ones. If they are not gingering, if they are not able to, move the sentiments, the market will remain the way it is.
So which means that, are you saying that this has to do with the policy of the government?
Oh, the policy has to change. Because, you see, if you want to start carrying awareness, which the stock exchange, SEC, every other person has, the stockbrokers have been doing over the years, and still, the percentage of those who are coming into the market has not been, too comfortable for us. There must be something. There must be another major thing to trigger. Let's let the economy, let other things, let other indices begin to speak, in positive terms. Let there be expectations. Let there be something to tell us that yes. And when it happens, I suppose no matter whether you're in the opposition or whether you are in the winning destiny, we'll be better off. But if nothing is happening, if we don't have any projections, if we don't have anything to tell us that tomorrow, remember that they had their own ideas. The other people have their own ideas. And when you look at it, those who are enlightened, those who understand and appreciate what the economy is all about, will tend to tilt towards one side. It hasn't happened in the past, and so that's the only thing that can.
Like operators like you in the market, and of course your client, you have other client also. So, so are you hopeful that we will see a change that will trigger the market going forward?
That's the best that can happen to us, because what has happened to us in the last one and a half years continues. It's a very major problem. So what we ourselves, and I also implore on this, the government, is come out with something, come out with policies, because if you don't, even if we preach from here till tomorrow, the confidence will not be there. People won't have to believe us, because in the past they have had experiences. And everybody wants to move forward. Nobody wants to go backwards. So for us, it is very important that there is a shift.
Let me quickly come in here. I know before in 2018, the capital market, the equities market actually bear the brunt and all the negative impact that we had in the market. So we saw a bit of volatility, and that affected the market capitalization, and we saw investors and foreign portfolio withdrew some of their investment in it. But if we continue this way, so what do you suppose the impact this will have on the market and the economy in general?
You would not want to even envisage that. Ordinarily, after an election, the reactions of people would normally tell you there is general apathy. The opposition is claiming that the figures that are being pushed out is not there, and there is apathy in the system. And that is why I said if it continues that way, it's a very big major problem for us. Because instead of growing your wealth, it's coming down, it's dwindling, and therefore how would you, and even for us, how will we be able to tell somebody, okay, fine, come in tomorrow and buy, and expect that after a reasonable point in time, you will get return on investment? And if what has transpired in the past continues, nobody will want to listen to us. Nobody will want to have anything. Nobody will want to invest. Some people will tend to have cash in their houses rather than investing in our market. And remember, they keep saying this thing, that capital market is the barometer to measure how the economy is working. If we have to really to take that, and if we have to continue that way, why would any foreign investor? That's why they come in, and then in one swoop they go out. You can see what happened that even before the election, they left. They came in and they left immediately. Our market doesn't have to be so.
So you are operating in the market, and I'm sure you have other investors in the market as well that you interact with and you discuss with. Give us the exact word about the current economic situation in the moment. What exactly are their words of these investors that you interact with on a daily basis?
Like I said, every investor expects that you grow your investment, and they're already discouraged because they are thinking that some of the policies are not favorable to business and the general public. So if I want to use a word, I think it's about they are being cautious, reasonably cautious. And there is still that pessimism. These words are what you continue to hear. Even when you preach, they want to be they are not in a hurry.
Cautious with their funds.
Yes, and they tend to be a little pessimistic, They are not looking forward to something coming up to trigger the system as to give them a leverage on their investment. That's caution everywhere. They seem to have gone inside, and that's why I said unless a major thing comes in to trigger this economy, otherwise nobody. Majority of the people we talk to, they are like, oh, fine, let's wait until we know what is happening.
Let's before we take a break, let's look at, I'm sure you've seen the manifesto of these two political parties. The reason why we have to look at this again and again is because I do know that elections and politics is very, very key in an economy like Nigeria. So if you look at the policy of the APC candidate, President Muhammadu Buhari as an incumbent, and of course the opposition party, the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, he was actually talking about privatization, selling of some government assets and all of that. Why, of course, the incumbent was actually talking about consolidation and all of that. So if you have to analyze and make your assessment of these two, vision and of course plans, what would you say?
Well, if I have to be, I mean, as a technocrat, if I have to be sincere to you, there's some element of what is good in the other one is also good in the other one. All over the world, the government has no business in business. All you need to do is provide an enabling environment. Privatize all the systems, but make sure that the proceeds are also equally plowed back into the system to create value, create jobs, So the people are apprehensive, that yes, privatization, beautiful idea, wonderful idea, but let the mistakes of the past not come into this one. Then the others, on the other side, you see, they tend to be saying populist, ideas and activities. Has it really gotten down to those people that is meant for?
That's the grassroots now, the masses industry.
Yes, it hasn't really gotten, to them. But that is what they think, that their own policy is, that they get to the grassroots, create an environment for everybody that will bring in jobs, encourage, SMEs, and so on and so forth, people building houses and so on and so forth. But I tell you one thing, that over that 4 years, the average cash holding, name it whatever, has not really been too favorable. So like you rightly said, when you have to bring in this into bear or into the fore, as it pertains the economy we are talking about, these elections are very important, because we listen to what you say, we read the manifestos, and they can come out with all these things, but implementation becomes a very major problem.
Interesting. Okay, I want to hold your thoughts there. Let's quickly take a moment. When we come back from this short break, we'll talk about. So we'll take a break now. We'll be back in a moment. Join us again. Glad to have you back now. We're looking at the post-election market and, of course, the sentiment that is driving the equities market, the Nigerian equities market after the 2019 general elections. And, of course, Mr. Osita Odili is my guest here. He's the MD of El-Elyon Alliance Securities Limited. Thank you for your time, Mr.
Thank you
Osita.
very much.
Of course, I know that the opposition candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, has said, of course, he was headed to court. And then, of course, there will be litigations and all of that. What do you think this will have? What kind of impact this will have on the economy?
Okay, I think the first major thing is first and foremost, I need the present government to reassure us and the international community that there won't be interferences in the judiciary. I mean, some of the things that happened prior to the elections were not pleasant. And so I want to believe that if the natural thing for the opposition to do, and thank God they haven't resorted to misadvising the populace and then their supporters, you find out that since the election finished, they conducted, people have been going about their normal businesses despite their feelings. So what I expect, the natural thing is that they should head to court. And we should also understand the fact that the court takes the final decision using evidences presented here and there.
That's right.
It can go either way. But what is important is that the judiciary should be respected. And within this time, I expect politicians to watch what they say, unguarded statements that can incite the public. Because regardless of going to court, what you say to your supporters determines a lot. Remember that Nigeria is bigger than any other person. So first and foremost, I expect everybody to respect that fact that Nigeria is an entity. Nigeria must continue. And then any negative thing we do boils down on our economy, boils down on each and every one of us. Even the elites are not going to feel it as bad as the other populations, Remember the transport system, the accommodation, and so on and so forth. We don't have private jets and all those ahead. So I expect that the opposition should, as they said they are going to court, that is the normal thing. And we should allow the court to actually do their work. allow them to be independent. And once they do it, you find out that when people begin to, both national and international community, when people begin to see that, yes, things are done the way it's supposed to be. Remember other countries, they have done their elections, and when you don't agree, head to the court. And we have seen courts, reverse decisions and so on and so forth. But then, because they are civil societies, you don't go about destroying things. So once we don't have those things, I suppose it will be a positive thing, for Nigeria, for our economy, for our market, which is our primary and basic constituency.
Okay, let's go to the other side, where, of course, there will be new administration come May 29. So what are the kind of things, of course, that the market at this time around is expected of the new administration to start addressing? Perhaps maybe if you have to highlight them for us.
Number one, you see, the first major thing they do now is that if they finish all these litigations, they should understand that this is Nigeria and Nigeria elected them. So everybody must be carried along. No segregation. Everybody must be carried along. This is Nigeria. That is the first thing I want them to achieve. And once they are able to do it, everybody has a sense of belonging. Everybody wants to, be part of the government. And that's number one. Number two is that, you see, when we talk about job creation, it's not just verbal pronouncements. We need to see those jobs coming for our youths. The government must be able to look at the youths. And then we talk about agriculture. It's not important that you are producing everything. What we're saying is that those things will have to be at the reach of every Nigerian. You understand? Our medical system, our educational system, they really have to come out this time around. And then to support the businesses. You see, you need to create an environment. We need a security. Nigeria needs that security that will ensure lives and properties. That is the only thing that will encourage, because we need foreigners to come and invest in our country, not just to come and go. We need something that they do that will, take long. The government must be able to, at this time. And then again, we should learn to generate revenue for this nation and curtail our borrowing. Whatever fund, whatever money that we have must be utilized judicially.
Let me come in issue about borrowing. I'm sure a lot of argument and debate have come up, and of course government have been defending their own end and saying the ratio at which they are servicing the debt is not on the negative side, or it's not a risk. It's not risky to the economy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, government can afford to say that, but the bottom line is that if you are spending so much to service your debt, it may not be above the acceptable standard. But what we're saying is that, can our economy be able to match those things? And then for how long are we going to be in this thing? I think what government needs to do is to expand, come up with new revenue generation ideas. Okay. We cannot live our lives on debt servicing. America owes, but I can tell you all that they do on a daily basis is, how can the economy grow? How can they generate revenue? So as to be able, so even if for any reason they need to recall those monies, the government can match it. But if we keep spending such for debt servicing in this nation, I am not too sure it's sustainable.
Okay, let's talk a bit about some of the policies. You mentioned policies that government needs to initiate policies that will, of course, grow the market as well. I know that if you look at the macroeconomic indicators, what we have at the moment you're looking at the interest rate of 14%, and you're also looking at inflation rate of about almost 12%, and then you also have for the commodities, products that will have about 13%. So, going forward, how do you think this has affected the market? Looking, if you put the GDP figures of 1.91% in 2018, at the end of 2018. So if you put all of these macroeconomic indicators together, so at the moment, how do you think this is actually impacting the market?
I think the government has a whole lot to do. They have a whole lot to do. It's in the past they were looking at stability, which is okay. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and when people begin to notice that stability, yes, that's very good. But you see, they have a whole lot to do. All right. They still have, I don't want to use the word want to, but they still have a lot to do. You understand? You see, you want your interest rate to be favorable to the general populace. Well, we have a growing population. It's very vibrant, very willing. I've been able to listen to quite a number of youths. Their ideas are superb. But can they really walk into the banks or financial institutions? And then, can you give them that money? And if they get it at that percentage rate, that means they will have to do extraordinary things in order to meet up, because number one, we are talking, power in Nigeria. So if you really add it up, I can tell you that we cannot continue that way. There must be a shift. Some of this is, our inflation has to come down. It has to. The interest rate must be looked in such a way that it becomes favorable to those who actually need it. That's right. That is the only way the economy, but when it's pegged at a point where the ordinary Nigerian on the street cannot walk into any financial institution and get credit, or even getting it at a, look at other nations, other developed nations. When you hear about the percentage, the interest rates, their percentage, you begin to marvel. Are we in the same planet? Are we in the same world? And that is why you see innovations everywhere. There are opportunities, and those opportunities, as long as they are not created here in Nigeria, these figures do not seem to make any real impact. Okay. That's why when they talked about the recession, the Nigeria is no longer in recession, people began to question, what are ordinary Nigerians? How do they feel? Are people doing well? If they are not doing well, if you think recession is good, that is just paperwork. That is just numbers.
As we wrap up now, perhaps this will be your parting shot. The sentiment in the market at the moment is that negative, like you said earlier. So going forward, do you think we might witness something positive that could trigger the market, that could change or reverse some of the negative sentiment?
That is my full expectation, and every economic analyst and expert will expect that we cannot continue this way. I believe that is, they say they are listening government, and I believe they will listen to people. They will take advices. They will broaden their perceptions and activities, as compared to what we have had in the last 4 years, And then they also should recognize our market more. I need to hear the president, I need to hear the vice president, I need to hear the ministers talk about our market. I haven't had it as much as we ought. I haven't really had any major pronouncement concerning our market. And when you begin to tell people, you don't wait for people to tell you about yourself. Go out there and market. Talk to people about our market. We need to hear the president, we need to hear the vice president, we need to hear the ministers, people in the National Assembly, talk about our market. They are elected. And when they begin to do this, you find out that more people want to come into the market, confidence will be generated, and then the foreigners will begin to understand that, fine, because we are involved in our own markets, they cannot just come in and go. They want to start a longer time. Because that's what they do in third world countries. They just